What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. This is the Hendersonville League Cup round number 5, and you look on the other side, you can actually see the other round 5 gameplay in it as well. And want to give a huge shout out to the Game Cave. They actually had a setup where we can record and stream from their own thing as well. So links down below to their website. Make sure you go show them love and support. Really, really amazing guys. And I'm excited. We actually have 2 setups for this stream, which for this cup, for this League Cup, which is amazing. And on the left we have Brian, and as you saw, he did mulligan. And on the right we have Chris. And I know what matchup this is, and if you saw the title of the picture, we know what matchup this is. And this is going to be Volcanion versus a Decidueye Vileplume deck, if I do recall correctly. But yeah, both players are going to set up here. We see that when we get the handshake, and who's going to go first? We see Brian. It does start with the Shaman, and Chris starts a double oddish start. Alrighty, now you got to think Volcanion versus Decidueye Vileplume. It's automatically in Volcanion's favor, but that's not 100% sure. True, if Chris can get like a turn of Vileplume, shut down Brian's like Max Elixirs and VS Seekers and stuff like that, it could put him in a really good position, and Chris could play other attackers like Lugia and Tauros and stuff that can actually help fight these fire decks. So you see Brian going to Ultra Ball for Hoopa, use that Scoundrel to search for 3 new EX Pokemon. So we see a Volcanion, and maybe a Shaman or a 3rd Volcanion coming down. And nope, gonna grab that Shaman instead, which is fine as well. Alright, so I'm gonna get a good little shuffle here, and how many item cards can Brian play turn 1? And that is the big question. If he could play a bunch of Max Elixirs and VS Seekers and Interretrievals and put his Float Stones down, he's good to go. What Chris could eventually do is license the Hoopa, get it stuck in the act spot. That's also a possibility. But here we see a Max Elixir going to put a Fire Energy on that bench, Volcanion. So right now, Brian, is having a good turn. He's got a Shaman in hand. He can set up for a couple of cards. He can maybe find another Max Elixir, some Float Stones for that bench Hoopa, and stuff like that. So we do see a Skyfall coming down, and we'll see a Shaman set up for 5 new cards, which is just amazing, obviously. So Brian has another Max Elixir. Alright, so Max Elixir, look at top cards of his deck, and he does find another Fire Energy for that Volcanion. And right now, that Volcanion is scared. He has 2 Fire Energies on it. It's gonna go crazy next turn. All it needs is an Energy Attachment, and Chris's Pokemon, Oddish and whatever, they're gonna get knocked out unless he finds out Lugia and or Tauros, if he plays that. Now we see Brian does have a Flowstone. I would probably put that on the Hoopa most likely. Just in case he does Life Center, but maybe Brian has something else outside of that, like a Olympia, and we might just see a pass here. He has, nope, going to Sycamore, discard his hand, draw 7 cards instead. Alright, so he must play as many item cards as he can this turn. Hit another Max Elixir maybe, some Trainer Smell, maybe an Ultra Ball. We see VS Seekers in his hand. He could play those down. You just need to prepare yourself if your opponent does get this turn 1 Vileplume. So we see a Volcanion come down, okay. Looks like we might see an Ultra Ball, maybe find a baby Volcanion. And that way, if Chris does bump your stadium, you can at least discard your Hoopa and not let it be a super huge Lysander target. And let's see what he discards with this Ultra Ball. And how much more can Brian play? So we see a Ranger go down and a VS Seeker being discarded. And we'll most likely see a baby Volcanion, and that's what we see. And get in the league promo Volcanion out onto the field. Alright, so imagine Brian will just pass here. I doubt he'll retreat. That seems crazy talk. Alright, so let's see what else does Brian have in his hand. Does he have another VS Seeker? Maybe an Interretrieval? I see a Sycamore Fire and looks like a Lysander maybe? And no, pass on to Chris turn. So let's see what Chris gets here. Does he find some Decidueyes? I do see, I don't see what's in his hand. I thought I did, but I don't actually see anything in his hand right now. So let's see what Chris does here. He does have a Force of Giant Plants. Going to put that down. Now Brian can discard that Hoopa. Alright, so that's a really good thing to do. Discarding your Hoopas. It's not a Lysander target anymore. We see a Gloom coming down. I'm trying to see what's in Chris's hand. Is that a Switch on the far right? A Sycamore? Oh, that's a Jirachi, actually. So he has a Jirachi hand. He has a Sycamore. And what else? So we see a Grass Energy going down to Oddish. Okay. And we'll see a Sycamore discard his hand, draw 7 new cards. Discards one Grass Energy, a Lysander, and a Jirachi. Not sure which grass Pokemon that is, But it looks like it's a Dartrix. Alright, so Chris does have the turn 1 Vileplume, but if he gets a Vileplume out right now, he puts himself in a terrible position because he doesn't have any attackers, which is a mistake that some people play. You know, they get the Vileplume out, they're good to go. Yeah, I got Vileplume, but then they sit there with nothing because they don't have an attacker. So we see Training Spell not going to hit anything with it. Okay. Chris will give it a good little shuffle here, and let's see what he finds with the rest of these cards in his hand. Like I said, he does have a Vileplume. He can get that out right now, but will that do anything? I don't think so. He does have an Ultra Ball. He can maybe grab a Shaman. Is that a Tauros in his hand? If it is, he can put that down. I think it is a Tauros, maybe. So maybe it's a Dartrix. Maybe it's nothing. Oh, Ultra Ball discards some grass Pokemon in the Forest of Giant Plants, and I imagine it's Decidueye GX. Maybe. I mean, that's the only GX Pokemon I know that might be right there, unless we could see it. But he is going to Ultra Ball for Shaman EX. Okay. And going to get a good little shuffle, and let's see. I just wish I knew what grass Pokemon that was. I really do think it's a Decidueye GX, and it's either that or Beedrill EX. It's one of those two. So we see a Shaman, maybe not. Flows down to the Gloom. Shaman set up 5 new cards. We know that one card in his hand is a Vileplume. So I do see a Lugia in his hand. Now I'm pretty sure that's a Lugia. I see a Decidueye GX as well, so he can Love Ball for Dartrix. And he can start using Feather Arrow to that bench Volcanion with the 2 energies. That's probably where you'll put your energies at. And you can threaten a huge Air Ball next turn with a DCE. You do 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Plus another 20 for the first Feather Arrow, and then the second one for 140. So let's see what Chris does here. He's got some Ultra Balls in his hand. Looks like he's got maybe a Dartrix. There's a Dartrix maybe coming down. But outside of that, his hand's not very good. He's debating, do I put down the Decidueye or not? I wouldn't see why you don't, unless you plan an Ultra Ball on a way to find another Shaman to help set up for more cards in your hand. So Ultra Ball, discarding a Vileplume and an Ultra Ball, okay. Remember, he does play Revitalizer, so he can get back that Vileplume. That's always a possibility. What he needs here is another Shaman to help set up to get 6 more cards. But his bench is going to be full, which is never good. It's never a good thing. It's never good. It's never good when your bench is full playing this deck, unless you have multiple Decidueyes down. So, Chris has a... Let's see. Maybe that wasn't a color Pokemon. I thought I did see a Lugia or something. So Decidueye coming down. We see a Lugia and a Shaman for 6 new cards. And there we go. Chris having a good turn 1. Does he find a Revitalizer and a supporter card for next turn? And there's a Revitalizer. Alright, so he can use that to get out of Vileplume. See, Revitalizer, going to get the Vileplume into his hand and probably the Dartrix. Or that is a Beedrill. I think you do grab Beedrill Hill. I think you 100% need the Beedrill to give you that double scrapper to discard some Floatstones if needed. Alright. We'll see probably Feather Arrow to that bench Volcanion EX. Okay, I mean, that's definitely 100% the possibility. And he probably just evolved a Vileplume this turn. He does have an Ultra Ball, a DC in hand. So we see another Revitalizer. There's a Dartrix in his hand that he could discard. What you could do is like discard 2 cards, add it, like Ultra Ball, discard the Vileplume with something else to grab a Rowlet, and then Revitalizer for that Rowlet and Dartrix in your discard pile. And that way, next turn, if your opponent knocks out your Oddish, which they might, you can easily get one out again next turn. But nope, just going to evolve a Vileplume. We'll see a Feather Arrow, put 20 onto that bench Volcanion, and nope, just going to pass, forgot to use Feather Arrow. Alright, so on to Brian's turn, going to draw a card, and let's see what Brian decides to do. He has 2 fires in the discard pile. Is he thinking about a Fisherman? He has a Sycamore in hand. We're going to see a treat into the Baby Volcanion, and we'll see a Power Heater. So Fire Energy, Steam Up, and we will see a Power Heater for 100 damage, knocking out the Oddish and getting 2 Fire Energies into play, both on those Volcanion EXs. Alrighty. So, on a Chris' turn, he gets sent up. The Vileplume, it does have free retreat thanks to the Floatstone. He can put a DC on that Lugia and start preparing. No, don't. I don't think you ever, like, you always want to set Pokemon with the Floatstone. Because what Chris could do technically is go for a Sky Return here, which is not a bad play. You put a DC on your Shaman, you Sky Return, it's like another Shaman, and you Shaman loop for a little while you set up more Decidueyes. That is a cool play you could do if you want to go that route. While Feather Arrow that bench Volcanion next, and make your opponent retreat his own Baby Volcanion. That is also a thing you can do, which I think that's a good play. Just Sky Return to different Shamans. He can't really knock you out unless he tripled Steam Ups. Which is very, very hard to do under item log. Now, I do see multiple DCs, and so there's a DC going to Lugia, and he is going to go for an Arrow Ball here, and I'm not a huge fan of this. I will say that right now, but we'll see. Hopefully, a Feather Arrow. Put 20 on that bench Volcanion with the 3 energies. Yeah, so Feather Arrow 20 to that bench Volcanion, and we'll go see an Arrow Ball for 60 damage. Now, what Chris could hypothetically do is put down a DC, License that Volcanion, and Deep Hurricane if he has that in his hand. I know he has a DC in hand, but I do not know if he has a Lysander hand. So we'll see a Steam Up at number 1, okay. Alright, and we'll see looks like maybe a Sycamore, if he wants to go that route. Yep, going to Sycamore, discard a Baby Volcanion and a VS Seeker. You're going to get 7 new cards, and that's a lot of trainer cards in his hand. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There's Skyfield, I think it's a Lysander as well, which could be very useful later on. But right now, we're going to see a Power Heater doing 50, putting 2 fire energies, 1 on that Volcanion with no energies, and the other only one with 1 energy. And I think Brian does have a full hand of item cards now that I look at it. So double fire energies being attached, and on to Chris' turn. Let's see what he does here. He's in a little bit of trouble. Brian is getting multiple energies out in the field. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 energies on the field, which is not good when you're a Decidueye player just staring this down. And let's see what Chris does with this grass energy. He's going to put on the Decidueye, okay. Looks like an end, so he is going to end, put both players at 6. Oh, Brian gets 5, sorry. And Chris is going to get 6 cards. But, I mean, if you look at Brian's side of the field, it is very, very, very scary for Chris. He's staring down 1 Volcanion fully set up, 1 Volcanion that needs 1 more fire energy, and another Volcanion with 1 energy. Like, Brian almost has 3 Volcanion Nexus powered up, ready to go. And after this turn, Brian can start swinging. Now, if you're Chris, what you might do is you might Feather Arrow the active plus Arrow Ball for the knockout, because that is 140 damage, which is enough to knock out the Baby Volcanion. Or do you wait to Lysander the bench Volcanion with 3 energies and take a knockout on that guy instead? I wonder what he'll decide to do here. Where does he put this 20 damage at with this Feather Arrow? Now, what he could do is just Arrow Ball for 60, or 20, 40, 60, and then next turn knock out the Feather Arrow, and then hopefully Deep Hurricane to knock out that Volcanion X. So we'll see an Arrow Ball for another 60. He did put the Feather Arrow on the bench Volcanion X, okay. Alright, so on to Brian's turn, he's going to draw a card. He does have a Fire Energy, which allows him to Steam Up and get more Fire Energies in play, which is always great. So Fire Energy is deactive. Looks like Brian's actually going to retreat here. So we see it in. Both players are going to shuffle and get 6 new cards. And if I'm Brian, I'm maybe not do this right now. I think you want to wait to have multiple Volcanions up and then swing. Because what can happen this turn is, like, you do take a knockout on the Lugia no matter what. The Volcanion takes a knockout. 9, 10, 11. I guess there's no way for Chris to really knock out the Volcanion next either. So I guess in like hindsight, it doesn't really matter too much unless Chris has another Lysander to bring up a Volcanion. Okay. So Chris gonna play in. Let's see what he does. Oh, okay. Oh no, sorry. Brian played in. So we see Skyfall go down. We see retreat into the. I don't know why I thought. I don't know what I was thinking. We'll see retreat, and we'll see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout, going down to 3 prize cards. Alright, so to Chris, he listens to that Vileplume with the Floatstone. Let's see what he does here. He does have an N in hand. Does he find a Tauros? Maybe somehow get another Decidueye in play. He's got some Feather Arrows. He could knock out the big Volcanion, or you start stacking damage on the Volcanion with 40 damage already on it from double Feather Arrow. There's a lot of different things that always happen when you're playing Decidueye, and you have to make these really complicated decisions, and people think, you know, it's such an easy deck, but there is a lot to do with this deck. Alright, so let's see what Chris decides to do. I hope he's not contemplating playing Ultra Ball, but there's a Tauros coming down, which I do love a lot for this matchup. Okay. See Brian switching out sleeves there. His sleeve did rip, but that's fine. Alright, so let's see what Chris does here. He puts down a Tauros. Does he have a DCE? Does he have a Lysander? We're going to see Feather to that Volcanion. Take a knockout going out of 5 price cards. Okay. Which I don't know how much of a fan I am of that. It does give you a Lysander target later on to bring up off the bench, which is really neat to do. I see a Dartrix in Chris's hand, but I don't see a Rowlet nor a Forest of Giant Plants. He only has 4 Pokemon on the bench right now. So we see an N. Both players are going to shove up. Brian's only going to get 3, and Chris is going to get 5. But as long as Brian finds a Fire Energy, he's going to be able to attack next turn and have basically, essentially, 2 Volcanions ready to go to win the game the following turn. Because Chris, the most he can really do is retreat to Tauros, and if Brian finds double Fire Energies, he can take a knockout this turn. And there's 1 in his hand right now. Let's see what Chris finds. Does he find a DCE to at least Horn Attack this turn? Who does he Feather Arrow? There's a lot of different things you have to ask yourself right now. What do you want to do here? Okay, so let's see. Chris is going to retreat to that Tauros. And I think we're going to see a pass from him. Let's see. Does he going to do anything or not? Going to put a DC active and going to use Horn Attack for 60. But where does he put that 20 damage at? And just going to Horn Attack for 60. Alright, so on to Brian's turn. Going to draw a card. Whoever wins the game as well as making cut. I am like 99.9% sure on this one. So Brian's going to look through there, see what he wants to do. Go to free retreat into that Volcanion. He does have a Fire Energy, which allows him to Volcanion Heat, but not take a knockout just yet. He'll do 130 damage. And Chris has to make a decision. Does he want to use Mad Bull GX? If he does, he'll be able to take a knockout. He can Feather Arrow that Volcanion with 2 energies, or for 3 energies. We see a DC. So Chris is actually in a good position. What he could do is Feather Arrow the bench Volcanion for he takes a knockout no matter what because he's doing 90. So now if you're Chris, you start putting 20 damage on a Shaman. If you could do that, you eventually, in 6 turns, you can win the game. But no, go put 20 damage on the other Volcanion. And we're going to see a Mad Bull GX for the knockout. And Chris is going to add 3 prize cards. But on a Brian's turn, he can send up that Volcanion with the 100 damage. We see Brian actually going to promote the Volcanion with the 1 energy, which is very interesting because it cannot attack this turn. So we are going to see that come up to the Axe Spot, which is very interesting. Okay. And we see a Olympia going to heal that damage off. Alright, so there we go. That was a pretty cool play. Olympia heal that off. And now we'll see Volcanion come up. And we'll see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout. But now, Chris can take a knockout here. He can Feather Arrow, not Feather Arrow, he can Rage Leaf for 90. Knock into the Volcanion. And Chris is going to put himself in a good position to win the game. I think right now you definitely Feather Arrow that Shaman. Like I said, that's definitely the scary card. Or you can just start Feather Arrow the Volcanion X. So we're going to see 20 on the Volcanion X. We'll see a Feather Arrow for the Rage Leaf for the knockout. Going down to 1 price card. And it's closer than I thought. I was actually scared for Chris. But now, you know, he's in the driver's seat. He's doing good. There's Volcanion coming up. Brian's going to find a card. And Brian is on a clock. He does have a Lysander, so he can bring up a Shaman if he wants to. Maybe the Vileplume, but that doesn't seem really good. And we're going to see what he does. So Lysander, going to bring up a Shaman, okay. And we're going to see a pass on a Chris turn. Going to draw a card. He does find a Grass Energy. Now he can retreat, or he can start putting 20 damage on that Shaman EX, which I do think is a cool idea. I don't think you retreat here just yet. I mean, I guess you could. You could retreat and then Rage Leaf, putting yourself to win next turn, which is not a bad option. So yeah, go to retreat into the Decidueye. We'll see probably a Feather Arrow for the active, and then a Rage Leaf. Doing 110. Oh no, go put 20 on the Shaman actually. Okay, there we go. I guess it like realistically doesn't matter. And we see Brian Chris will take this game. Wow, I really thought Chris was going to lose this. He stood down so many energies, but all of a sudden, Chris, you know, Mad Bull took a knockout. Brian attacked into that Tauros and just angered the bull and just got, you know, taken out with that Mad Bull GX. And that's what I was talking about earlier. You know, you think, you know, Decidueye automatically just loses. You're playing against fire. There's no way you can win. And then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, I have Tauros, I have a Lugia, and I can just shut down my opponent with Vileplume. That's fine. Alright, so you do have these outs, like I said. But guys, on the game number 2, both players are going to shuffle up. Brian, he had no complaints turn 1. I mean, he got Volcanion pretty much powered up turn 1. He found a Flowstone for his active Pokemon. He touched a Fire to his active Shaman. He, got a bunch of Pokemon down. And he was good to go, but it's just Vileplume is just such a strong card that just by that itself, it does destroy your opponent. Vileplume is such a good card. All right, but on the game number 2, both players are going to shuffle up, and we'll see what happens. This is best 2 out of 3. The loser gets to decide who wants to go first or second. And if you're Brian here, you definitely want to go first. You want to play item cards as quickly as possible before your opponent puts down that Vileplume. And here we go, guys. Both players are going to set up, and let's see what is going to happen. Who finds what? So you see Chris does get a mulligan. Okay, it looks like 2 Decidueyes, a Dartrix. Nothing else too special that I can see. That real quick. I didn't see anything too spicy. Remember, this is round 5 of the Henderson League Cup, and after this, we'll cut to a top 8. We'll have 2 of those recorded. Both top 4 games are recorded as well, and then the final. So it should be a lot of fun coming up here, guys, from the Hendersonville League Cup. And does Chris find a Pokemon? And he does put one in the act spot. All right. So I accidentally dropped a card, but here we go. 6 prize cards, and let's see what's going to happen, guys. Who do you want to see take the game? Do you want to see Volcanion or Decidueye Vileplume? And like I said, Brian is going to go first. Draw that card. He does have a Fire Energy Ultra Ball. He can Ultra Ball for the Hoopa turn 1 and start the party. So Ultra Ball discards a Sycamore and maybe a Fire Energy. That doesn't seem too bad. And going to most likely grab a Hoopa if it's not prized. And there we see right at the bottom of his deck is a Hoopa. With this Hoopa, he can find double Volcanius and a Shaman. He's got a Max Elixir, a Fire Energy, and he's on the course of right now having a fantastic turn 1. Alright, so see Hoopa, going to use a Scoundring, search for a Volcanion, search for another Volcanion and a Shaman, so a Shaman and a Volcanion, okay. It's always a pretty cool turn 1 where you can pull it off, Ultra Ball for a Hoopa, find the guys you want, and just start getting set up out of nowhere. Alright, so Brian's going to get a good shuffle here. Like I said, he'll put down. There we go. All right, cool. All right. All right. All right. So we'll see a Volcanion coming down. We'll see a Volcanion coming down. We will see a Max Elixir. Gonna look at top cards of his deck, and he does find a Fire Energy for that bench Volcanion. Okay. He's got another one in his hand that he can attach, and if he finds another Max Elixir, he's essentially set up a Volcanion turn 1, which is fantastic. Alright, so, Brian plays a base set switch. That is amazing. I love base set cards. Alright, sorry. So, we'll see a Fire Energy attached to that Volcanion, and we will see a Shaman set up for 3 new cards. So, 1, 2, 3. I see a Fire Energy and Ultra Ball. Okay, so Ultra Ball discarding a Sycamore and Olympia. Okay. This could find a baby Volcanion. That is a possibility. He could go for another Volcanion X. I think Baby Volcanion's fine here. I don't think it's too bad of a play. So yeah, we see Baby Volcanion come down. And what Brian could do is Olympia to the Baby Volcanion. Or VS Seeker for Olympia, VS Seeker for Sycamore, and Olympia this turn to Baby Volcanion. Or he can just play Sycamore, discard his hand, draw 7 new cards. Either one is fine. And we'll see Sycamore discard his hand, draw 7 new cards. Does Brian find another Max Elixir or not? He does have a switch in hand. I mean, if he could attack turn 1, this game would almost be over. There's a Flowstone. Could put down the active Volcanion. I see a Trainer Smell. Look at the top cards of his deck. Gonna look and see what's in there. Does he find a Max Elixir, a VS Seeker, and we see a Fisherman returning it to his hand. So next turn he can use Fisherman if he wants to. Okay. And let's see. Alrighty, we'll see Brian put a Flowstone maybe on the active. There's a switch into the Volcanion. Okay, Flowstone the active, and 1 fire in the discard pile, 2 fires. So he essentially doesn't really need a steam up. That's fine. And gonna see an Energy will put 2 fires just back into his hand. Okay. And a pass on a Chris turn. Alright, so on a Chris turn, he top decks an Oddish, so you immediately gotta think he'll put that down. Alright, so Oddish in the field. I see a Decidueye in his hand. We see a Trainer's Mail. Look at the top 4 cards of his deck. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Does he find an item card? I do not see. Okay, the Lysander going to his hand. Now, I don't know if I would put that in my hand right now. Like, if I had a Sycamore, I definitely would have put Lysander in my hand. because you want to draw that until later to license the Hoopa that's stuck right there, and hopefully get the Hoopa stuck. And that is the key, a key in this matchup is license or Hoopa, get it stuck in the X spot while you start getting multiple attackers. All right, so Lysander going to Chris's hand. Okay, we will see. Does he have a Love Ball? Maybe an Ultra Ball. I see a Lysander. Going to Lysander the Hoopa, and I mean, I think that's his whole turn. I think he doesn't have anything else outside of that. And we'll see a pass on to Brian's turn. All right, so let's see. Can Brian find a way to retreat this Volcanion? All right, so he has 2 VS Seekers in discard pile, Olympia, a Flowstone field, and a Switch in the discard pile. He's got 3 energies, so a Fire Energy deactive. We might just see a pass here. I think his hand's like really bad on the Chris turn. Yeah, that's not good. But Chris just top decks another Decidueye GX, which doesn't help you either. That's not what you want to see. You need to find some other Pokemon cards. Was he a Gloom coming down? Okay. And a Sycamore discarding 2 Decidueyes, a Revitalizer, and a Vileplume. Wow, that is not good if you're in Chris's seat. If you're Brian here, you're thinking, oh, that's great. He discarded a Revitalizer, he discarded 2 Decidueyes. It's going to be hard for him to take a knockout later on. But this Chris, he does have a Lugia, can put that down on the field. He does have an Ultra Ball and a Forest of Giant Plants, so he can get a turn 2 Vileplume, which is almost good as turn 1. But he needs to find a Decidueye GX. He needs that down, and that is the key here. So Revitalizer, I'm going to put 2 cards back in his hand. 1 is going to be Vileplume and 1 is going to be Decidueye. But does Chris have a way to get out of Decidueye GX this turn? I know he has an Ultra Ball in his hand, but does he have a Dartrix and or Rowlet in his hand? If he does, then he's good to go. He can get a turn 2 Decidueye plus Dartrix. I mean, I think I see a Grass Pokemon as far left, so it looks like he will be able to get Decidueye and a Vileplume out this turn. But Shaman might get knocked out this turn, unfortunately. So we see Ultra Ball discarding a Dartrix and a Decidueye. Oh no, that's not good. Because what do you grab here? Do you grab another Shaman? How many Revitalizers does Chris play? He's already discarded 2. Already played 2. He discarded 1 and played 1. And there's a Shaman going to his hand. One of those cards is the DC, and the other one is a Vileplume. If you're going to attack this turn, I think you definitely put a DC on. I want to say the Lugia. Because no matter what, somebody's going to get knocked out next turn. You really don't want to put your Lugia in grave danger by like Sky Returning to it. There's a Love Ball. Going to grab a Rowlet. Man, if he has a 3rd Revitalizer in his hand, he can get a Decidueye out this turn. That'd be crazy insane to see. Does he play 3 Revitalizers? I don't know. I don't know his list, unfortunately. So let's see what Chris does here. He does have a DC in hand, but like I said, I think you put this on a Lugia. Dartrix will come down, okay. He's got double DC. I really do think you just put a DC on that Lugia, and the next turn put another DC on the Lugia, and hopefully you can smell knock out the Volcanion 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 130. That's not enough numbers. So Val will come down, and we'll see a Sky Return, but who do you send up? We know Brian has a ton of Fire Energies in hand, plus a, well, I guess Brian can't attack this turn, so I guess it's not too bad, because, you know, he's got to touch the actor Hoopa, and outside of that, he really can't do too much, okay? Let's see what Brian does here. He does have a Fire Energy. He can put down the active and then just pass. Alright, so Fire Energy active. Do we just see a passive from Brian? Yeah, pass on to, alright, on to Chris's turn. Let's see what happens. If he finds a DC, he can airball for 20, 40, 60, 80, which is not enough for the knockout. He really needs a DC plus a Lysander, so DC going to the Lugia, okay. He's got a Shaman. Going to come down, set up for 3 new cards, so 1, 2, 3. Does he find a Decidueye or not? I mean, either way, this Lugia is going to get knocked out. Chris, doesn't seem like he realized it, but Brian's going to discard his 2 energies, retreat to Volcanion, probably steam up once, and then steam up again, and then Fisherman or something. Like, he's taking a knockout next turn. You just don't know, guys. Yeah, that Lugia is toast. He is no longer in this world. He's about to be taken out. So, we'll see I mean, if he does decide to go the Volcanion route, he might not go the Volcanion route, but I definitely do think attacking with Volcanion here is the best option. So, see Volcanion coming up, okay. We'll see a fire energy attachment there. We will see a steam up, discard 1. So right now he's doing 160. We'll see a fisherman gonna return 4 fire energies back to his hand. He only has 3 in the discard pile. We will see a second steam up. And we'll see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout. No need to play the third one. You definitely want to keep in your hand for next turn to use Power Heater with. So we'll see a knockout going down to 4 prize cards. And now if you're Chris, what do? You get Sky Return, sure. But that only gets you so far. Yeah, alright. So Chris needs to find a Tauros. He needs to find a Decidueye and start using Feather Arrow. He can also just use Decidueye to find another EX Pokemon. Or I guess find the Lugia at a discard pile with the Hollow Hunt. That allows you to get 3 energies or 3 cards at a discard pile. So Rowlet, Dartrix, and remember 2 Decidueyes are in the discard pile, so it might be hard for Chris to find some of those guys. But if you're Chris here, if you Sky Return, who do you Sky Return to? Both of your Dartrixes are going to knocked out with 1 steam up. Alright, so DC going to the active. And are we going to see a Sky Return? I think you Sky Return to the Shaman right now. I think that's what you do here. I don't think you send it to the Dartrix. Like I said, they get knocked out fairly easily. But we'll see what Chris... Okay, you got to send it to the Dartrix on a Brian's turn. Going to draw a card. And Brian can take a knockout. He's got a Fire Energy in hand. He's got 2 Fire Energies in hand, so he can put one in the Volcanion. He can retreat, steam up, and Power Heater for 100 damage. Taking a knockout, going out of 3 prize cards, and getting some energies back on the field. And if you're Chris, when do you decide that you're nervous? Like, are you nervous now? Are you nervous when Brian has like billion energies on the field like last game? But even then, Chris still pulled it out. So I don't know. All right, so steam up, discarding a fire energy. Right now, Power Heater will do 100 damage. It does 50 and then times 2, which is 100 damage. 2 knock out the Dartrix, going out of 3 prize cards. And if you're Chris, you're in a pickle. You are definitely in a pickle right now. That is 100% the fact. So we see a Lysander bring out the Vileplume, actually, okay? And he is going to Power Heater for 100 damage, get 2 fire energies on the field, and he can do this again next turn to practically get 2 Volcanion EXs ready to go. So he'll do 100 damage to that Vileplume, okay? Chris is going to draw a card. Can he retrieve this Vileplume? No, there's pretty much no way he can retrieve the Vileplume. Unless he plays Olympia. Maybe that's the only card I can think of that can get the Vileplume out of the axe spot right now. But we see a DC and Chris hand. Go put it on the Shaman, okay. Shaman got set up for 1 card, maybe? Yep, that must not have been a good card because he didn't play. It was a Jirachi. Jirachi, pretty much useless, and we'll see pass on a Brian's turn. But like I said, what Brian can do now is just Power Heater for the knockout and get 2 more fire energies in play. And now he's got 2 Volcanions on practically ready to go. So Brian going down to 3 prize cards. Okay. Brian does have a Lysander, so he can Lysander somebody next turn if he wants to. We'll see Shaman come to the X spot with a DCE. And what can Chris do? I don't know what he can really do now. He's lost his Vileplume. There's 2 Revitalizers gone. There's a Decidueye GX coming down. Trainer's Mail. Look at top 4 cards of his deck. Chris's only real way to win is to maybe Lysander the Hoopa. Like, that might be his only out. But then Brian plays like Escape Ropes and Switch and Olympia, so it's not going to get stuck there forever. But we do see a Trainers of Chris. Gonna grab a Sycamore, okay. And let's see what else does he find here. Does he find another Decidueye? That could be pretty cool. But either way, you are in trouble if you're in Chris's shoes. Like, you don't have your Vileplume anymore, and Brian's gonna be free to use all of his trainer cards next turn. So Ultra Ball from Chris, discarding a Jirachi and a Grass Energy. This could find a Tauros, but even then, Tauros might not make it for this world. It could easily be knocked out next turn. Alright, so let's see what he decides to do. Looks like he is going to grab another Decidueye. He could double Feather Arrow to bring that Hoopa up to 150. The next turn, knock it out. If he wants to go that route, I don't know how good that is, though. He's already tapped return, so he's not going to raise Leaf no matter what next turn. Let's see. What does he do here with this? He's thinking, he's contemplating, where do I put this 40 damage at? I don't know. Alright, so Sky Return. Oh, no, he's in my double feather. Sorry. He could double feather the bench Volcanion. Do it again. I mean, I don't even know what that does, really. So, yep, 40 damage to the bench Volcanion. We'll see a Sky Return for 30. Chris gonna look to the discard pile, see what's all in there, and make his correct play. He wants to make sure he makes the best play he can. Whoever wins this match is making top 8. That is 100% true for this match. All right, so Chris got a Sycamore in hand. He could play that. I see he's debating. He has a Grass in his hand. He gets Sky Return, but who do you Sky Return to? That is the big question. I just don't know. I just don't know who. Because Sycamore discard his hand. Discarding a DC and a Grass Energy. Oh no, that's not good. Alright. So does Chris find a non-EX Pokemon he gets Sky Return to? So see if Flow's doing that. Decidueye. That doesn't matter. Decidueye is going to get knocked out, bud. If you Sky Return to it. Yeah. Alright, so let's see what Chris does. He does have an Ultra Ball. That could get out something. I just don't know what. We're going to see Sky Return for 30. And who do you promote here? Okay, go promote the Shaman. On a Brian's turn, he can Skyfield, bump the Forest, Volcanion come down. We'll see a Flowstone to the Volcanion next. And he does have an Escape Rope in his hand, if I do see that correctly. And he could Escape Rope to knock out a Decidueye GX this turn, because it is 260 with weakness. We see Sycamore with the VS Seeker. There's a Flowstone going to Volcanion. Man, I would be really tempted to Escape Rope. Yeah, you will see Escape Rope. It doesn't. I mean, I guess if you're Chris, you send up the Decidueye without the Flowstone, because it's getting knocked out no matter what. Because of Volcanion Heat. Alright, so things are not looking good for Chris right now. It looks like Brian will actually use Super Rod, show back in one card into his deck. Okay, ooh, but Brian needs to find a Fire Energy. He could whiff this, but even if he does whiff it, Brian can just retreat to the Baby Volcanion. So see a VS Seeker for Sycamore. Discard his hand, draw 7 new cards, and there is a Fire Energy plus a Max Elixir, Energy Ball, another Fire Energy, and Brian will take a knockout. There's a Max Elixir. Does he find one? He finds one for that Volcanion next with the 3 energies now on it. And things are looking bad for Chris, because now Brian has 2 Volcanions ready to attack and ever. There's a Fire Energy attachment for his turn. And we will see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout, going out of 1 prize card. What can Chris do here? Is there a way he can win this game? I don't know. Maybe a Lysander, Hoopa, and Prey? It sticks, but even then, that's going to be a hard thing to do. And we see Chris here just going to scoop and say, you know what? Own a game number 3. And now game number 3, Chris, I mean, he's going to go first. Obviously, that's what you always want to do no matter what deck you are playing. But does Chris find the turn 1 Decidueye? If he does, he will shut Brian out of so many things and put himself in a dominated position. But does he get the turn 1 Vileplume? We haven't seen him from all in game 1 or game... Wait, game 1? Did I get one? I don't recall. It's been such a long time already. But yeah, on to game number 3, guys. Once again, I want to give a shout out to the Game Cave number 2. Make sure you check out their link down below to their website. Give them a shout out. Say that Team Fish Knuckles sent you here, and tell them thank you for letting us record at their store. It was amazing to let them do that. Cannot say that enough. And letting us use their camera to record round number 5, top 8, top 4, and the finals we do use my camera. Because I had to get all the files off of his computer, obviously. So here we go, guys. Both players are going to set up, find 7 new cards. And it looks like Brian did find a Pokemon. And what does Chris find here? And it looks like he is going to put some in the axe spot. And here we go, guys. On to game number 3. Do you want Volcanion or do you want a Decidueye Vileplume to take it? And let's see what's going to happen. Chris is going to draw a card. And time to party. Or maybe not. Chris does have an Ultra Ball in hand, so he's not going to get knocked out immediately. Oh, that's a Trader's Ball, not an Ultra Ball. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Going to grab a Revitalizer. Alrighty. Does he find the turn 1 Vileplume or not? That is a $1 million question. Okay. Let's see what else is in there. I do see I think that's a shame. I do think that's Ultra Ball if I do see it correctly. So we are going to have a game here. Chris is not going to get knocked out turn 1. He's going to Ultra Ball, discard Gloom and Vileplume, which could grab him an Oddish. And then Shaman set up, go crazy turn 1, try to find a Forest of Giant Plants, get the turn 1 Vileplume. Alright, so there's an Oddish. Okay. And we're going to have a... I mean, I want to see what happens when Chris gets out this this Vileplume. Does Brian have ways to deal with it? We see a Shaman going to set up for 3 new cards. So 1, 2, 3. There's a Lysander. I see a Forest of Giant Plants. I'm going to put that down. Let's hope he doesn't get down this turn 1 Vileplume without a Decidueye. So Tauros coming down the field as well. And we are going to see Rivalis can put the Gloom and Vileplume back into his hand, but does he have something else outside of that? I see a Grass Energy in his hand. I see something else on the far left. I'm not sure what that is. So Gloom, does he put down a Vileplume or not? Or does he wait a turn? Let's see, so Vileplume will come down and a pass on to Brian's turn. Alright, so Brian's going to draw a card, have a Skyfield, bumping that Forced Out Plants, Fire Energy deactive, and a Sycamore, discard his hand, drawing 7 new cards. If Brian finds a Volcanion plus a Fire Energy, he can knock out this Rowlet, and does he do it? I think he does. So you have Volcanion come down, he'll Steam Up, and he'll Power Heater for the knockout, going down to 5 prize cards. Even though Chris found the turn 1 Vileplume, he's in danger here. This Rowlet will get knocked out. Brian will go down to 5 prize cards, and Chris will send up the Tauros. Alrighty. So Chris turn, going to draw a card. He has a Lysander. He could bring out the Volcanion X and get a couple turns. There's a Rowlet coming down. Okay. And do we see a pass, or does he go for a Lysander here? So Grass Energy deactive, Lysander bring out the Volcanion, and we'll see a pass on to Brian's turn. Now, he does have a Fire Energy active. He could just attach that Volcanion and just pass. That's not a bad play. Yeah, we're going to see a pass on to Chris's turn. And even though Chris got this turn with Vileplume, this is what I was talking about. So, on to Brian's turn, he's got a Fire Energy. He gets Fire Energy the active. He can Steam Up number 1. Or does he go for Volcanion Heat? Now, if he does go for Volcanion Heat, that's where we're going to see Volcanion Heat for 130, sorry. Does Chris find anything? And I don't think so. So Brian is going to play Ranger, get rid of that condition. He can put a Fire Energy on that bench Volcanion maybe? Or nope, we're just going to see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout, going down to 3 prize cards. And things are going down here quickly for Chris. Chris will send up the Rowlet, going to draw a card, but all Brian has to do is retreat, Steam Up, and take a knockout this turn, going down to 2 prize cards, and all of a sudden, it's going downhill for Chris all of a sudden. Oh, no. So let's see what Brian does here. He does, he could pass. We'll see a pass, and I think Brian has a Lysander in his hand. I think I see a Lysander. If that is a Lysander, he can bring up the Shaman and win the game. Or not win the game, but going down to 2 prize cards. We'll see a Force of Giant Plants hit the field. Okay. Pass on to Brian's turn. Is that a Lysander? No, just going to Volcanion here for the knockout. Going down to 2 prize cards. Okay. Must have not been a Lysander. So we see Vileplume coming up, and Chris is in trouble here. We're going to see another pass on to Brian's turn. We see a Volcanion coming down. Okay. We'll see a Fire Energy being attached to it, most likely. No, going to retreat and going to use Power Heater for 50. Or he could do 100 this turn. So, Steam Up. Going to do 100 damage to that Vileplume. Okay. Alrighty. I mean, Brian's hand is just full of item cards. Alright, so Chris does top deck of Rowlet. He can put that down. And pass on to Brian's turn. He can put a Fire Energy on a Volcanion. He can power up and basically have the win condition next turn. So he'll Power Heater again, take a knockout, going out of 1 prize card. And, you know, Chris had that turn on Vileplume, but like I said, even though he had the turn on Vileplume, he didn't get a good attacker down. Chris will put down a Drachi and say, you know what, that is going to be game. If you have it, there's a Floodstone, there's Retreat, and we'll see a Volcanion Heat for the knockout. And Brian will take this 2-1. Oh my goodness, all of a sudden it went downhill for Chris. He had the turn 1 Vileplume. He got ready to go, and we will see Brian take this game. But guys, there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Next up will be top 8, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. What games will we stream? That is the big question. But guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Alrighty, bye. Alright guys, I just want to give a quick shout out to our 3 sponsors, 60 Cards, Yeti Gaming, and the Pokemon Company International. Links to everything will be down below in the description. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Alrighty.